of beaming down connectivity from unmanned aircraft. So we are aggressively pursuing that. So we just announced the first flight, so we've built an aircraft that actually flies, and we're looking between now and the end of 2017 at testing that, because we think that that's a long-term strategy. We're also partnering to do express Wi-Fi, where again, we're partnering directly with local producers, local ISPs, so that we can empower entrepreneurs to provide express Wi-Fi in their communities, which creates another business model. So it's not just Facebook, it's also companies like Google who are looking at infrastructure and connectivity as a boost not just to their business, but also as something that makes the world a better place. And we are actively looking for partnerships, and we are actively partnering. As Fiona said, OTTs cannot exist. Online services cannot exist if there's no infrastructure. So we absolutely see that we have a responsibility and an opportunity to partner with operators around the world, certainly across Africa, and also with infrastructure providers. And we are absolutely open for partnerships, and we continue to pursue them.
Great. Let me tie a bit to my brother tour. This is probably your opportunity to tell people, these guys, what you meant when there was all this hue and cry about blocking Netflix.
Okay, first of all, I'm sure you all know by now that that matter was taken out of context, that we never said we are blocking Netflix. Our statements are available online. The day we issued that statement, we posted it on our website, and we never said we were blocking Netflix. What we did was to give a caution as a regulator, because the government anywhere in the world exists to regulate all aspects of life, to determine or to encourage harmonious interaction of human beings and human behavior. And I think as a regulatory body, what we are doing was to say, as we allow Netflix to stream in Kenya, which is a new paradigm in terms of ICT growth in our country, but also in terms of appropriating the benefits that come with it in terms of content distribution. And for the first time, I was, I have a 10-year-old and he couldn't wait for Netflix to start streaming here, because initially when Star Wars launched or premiered in the US, he was being told by his friends over there that shows you my kids communicate with their friends over there. Again, we don't. It's afternoon, you guys have to stay away. But he told me now they are here, we don't need to have to be calling so and so. Please don't ban it. Because he had been meant to believe by the media that we were actually banning Netflix. So we were not going to say, please allow Kenya to have some maturity rating that determines what our kids watch. That when you go as a parent and you prescribe using your Visa card, and you determine or pick a title of a movie on Netflix, you are basing your judgment on the rating that is on the movie. And we're saying that that rating is not Kenyan rating.
So you want a specific rating for Kenya?
It was maturity rating. Look, we initiated discussions with the Netflix, and we told them, look, you are streaming here. We are a big market. Can we have some laws that, just ensure that our children are safe? Our concern is actually the safety of our children online. It's what they watch. And our concern was to ensure that if you as a parent, you prescribe or you subscribe to Netflix, the rating that determines or makes you choose that title for your kids is actually the rating of KFCB, because this jurisdiction has its own laws. They have done it for the UK, they have done it for France, they have done it for other jurisdictions, but they say in Africa there is no maturity rating for Africa. Now look, when we raised our concern, we looked out of place, but sooner than later, South Africa came with the same demand for Netflix. Indonesia blocked them actually. Yeah, the European Union 3 months ago actually demanded that they have to impose a 20% local content quota for all the members of the EU. It was not completely out of the blues or without some basis, but the driving force and the motivation for our action was to ensure that our kids are safe. And I sat with Dr. Demo and some other people in this meeting that are not mentioned, because Dr. Demo took it out of the context initially. And he was totally, you know, abhorred that Ezekiel Mutua could do these crazy things. So we sat and we went through the subscription process. There's a point we chose a movie, I will not mention the name, and I'm not out to embarrass anyone who we did this with. But it was like Dr. Demo trying to prove to me that Netflix is safe, there's a process of filtering, our kids are safe, after all it's an adult who has to subscribe, you need to have a Visa card, and all that story. That I know. But we reached a point where it was asking, and I don't know how many of you have encountered that, even for the variation, you want the lesbian type and this other type. And I thought, if my kid was doing it alone, or I subscribed or gave them the access, and they reached that point alone, and I wasn't there. Kids are, you know, innovative and curious, and they would want to try this and the other. Those are basic concerns that we are raising. They might look mundane, but in our context as a regulator, don't take it as Ezekiel Mutua, as Kenya Film Classification Board, we exist to regulate creation, distribution, exhibition of content, whether online, whether over the top services and all, and that was the decision that we took to protect our children and minors from harmful exposure to inappropriate content. And I think by now the discussions have moved so far that we are now discussing with Google how we can take it in that discussion further. I think the examples that we have said, because the other thing that you need to know, Mr. Moderator, was actually we were protecting also our local media industry and the creative industry. That if you are going to stream in Kenya, then can we have a discussion like what EU has done and put some content for local creators so that there will be local content on Netflix. And if that is done, I think it's a good thing for our market. Lastly, unless there is regulation to bring balance and fair play in the market, any market, whether over the top or the traditional markets that we know, we are going to create cartels that are going to drive other people out of business, and I believe it's the work of the government to create a fair playing ground, a level playing ground for all manner of business, including OTT.
Thank you, Mutua. So it's clear, they didn't want to ban Netflix. Esther, you've been involved in a lot of content creation, and with these discussions, are you part of it, and how is the content creation, and what kind of impact does it have in our country and the region?
Thank you. What I would request is that when I create this content, because I have a lot of it, I didn't move out of ICT completely, but Dr. Mutua here knows that I'm now dealing with media. So imagine I have two, ICT media. So what I'm now doing at where I am is content creation, and we want to make our content out there. I mean, we want to give our content, we want to make it available. So because the main project that we are doing now is that we have very historical content, old photographs of our great-great-grandfathers. A long time, initially KBC and information was the same. So even at KBC, we have those old programs. Yawaletea, you remember, there were those, yes. We are also putting them online. We want to make them available to even the people who are not there when they were being created. So what we are doing is we would request for now the regulation that I was saying, standards, so that when I put my content online, because I have very many photographs, old ones, and I'm going to make them available on an e-commerce website where people can check out and purchase, and also the old videos and clips. So as a content creator, I would like to know how safe is my content out there. So that is what we are doing, and I hope we're soon going to be launching that project, and we would like all of you to just come see what we have. The bloggers can always embed those photographs for they are the content creators, and there'll be all types of licenses for this content. So depending on the license, then the use of the content. So that's what is. Does it sound interesting?
Yeah. If you can have Vioja Mahakamani on Netflix or Roku.
Yes, at least.
It's already there?
This is one, maybe I can show you a photo. Maybe this is the caption. Maybe the
I can help my sister here.
Yes, please.
Very quickly.
Yes.
This for those like Bella who may not know, that is our founding father, President Kenyatta.
And then,
Some familiar.
President
Kenyatta making an international telephone call to President Tito of Yugoslavia after he inaugurated the Extelcom's house today along Selassie Avenue, Nairobi. From left to right, Kasam, blah, 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 blah. But you can see the stamp there. April 7th, 1973.
We go back up to 1950s, we have all that content.
Okay, good. So this is what I'm going to do. So if you have a question, please queue behind that microphone there. If you have a question, queue behind that microphone. I'm taking 2 comments from my panelists. Then we can move into a Q&A. So if you have a question, just queue behind that microphone.
Just a quick comment, Esther. What you're trying to do is really good. However, I think at some point, someone somewhere sold that content to private companies. So already when you go online, you can get like Bitimbi from the very first episode, Vioja Mahakamani. They are already available online. But it's not. Yeah.
Actually, I started this when I was Director of Information, so I just wanted to chip in because when I joined the Department of Information, there were these archives, very important historical photographs, like Esther is saying, from the 1950s, that were just kept in cartons across the country. And some of them are unique photographs that were not with any other government institution. And we just undertook this project to ensure that we can digitize. Actually, we approached UNESCO and we got support to do this, and I'm very happy that when Esther took over, she has carried it along. We may have lost some of them, and I think one of the challenges that we face even with the discussions that we have today is the issues of IP, intellectual property and copyright issues. And the reason why our artists are dying poor, if we can avoid just big technologies and just zero into where the rubber meets the road, is because we do not pay quite a lot of attention to the issues with intellectual property. And I think even though they might have been taken by private companies, I know there are cases that you can pursue. I've heard the story of this song, there's a song by Miriam Makeba that has been Malaika, you know the debate now about Malaika, the Lion King, and so on and so forth. But I think if we were serious about these issues and we got proper intellectual property lawyers and attorneys, it's possible for our artists who have done this to reclaim and make money out of it. Intellectual property exists for lifetime and 50 years after death. And therefore I believe there's a sense in which we can still retrieve and therefore feel that the conversation still continues.
Okay, let's take some quick questions. One thing. Okay.
I just think it's important to distinguish between OTT regulation, which is essentially asking whether online services should be regulated in the same way as operators. That's one issue. That is completely different from conversations about content, conversations about copyright. Those are all different. And I think we would say that absolutely those are issues that should be discussed, and there is existing regulation and it should continue to be enforced. But I think we should be clear that those are 2 different categories, or many different categories of issues.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay. Please just state your name, your organization, then ask your question. You can direct the question to a specific panelist, that will help.
Okay, my name is Sidney Chen from the iHub. This panel is about access. but I haven't yet had any conversation about how much it costs to go onto the internet, because it's still very expensive for most people to go on the internet, and I feel like we would be remiss not to talk about how we get the cost, because we cannot compare ourselves to America, but we're cheap compared to them, but we're not cheap for normal people. It still costs a lot, so I think we need to talk about that.
Okay. My name is Vicky. I'm a communication advisor in the security sector, and also a CEO of Parasito News Services. And I'm glad to see Ezekiel Mutua. Actually, he's my mentor. We have worked closely.
Ezekiel is a superstar.
Yeah, when he was the Secretary General of KUJ, I also joined there as a vice chairperson of KUJ.
Your question?
Yeah, and I think so. We have done so. Actually, Mutua is a great man and a great leader. Yeah, he is, because we actually have worked closely with him.
Your question, please.
Yeah. Yeah, you know the reason why I'm saying so, because we work closely with both also in the area of, yeah, that's the reason I have, because I have to support my own there, Anyway. Yeah. So Ezekiel, thank you so much for the initiative. Yeah, because the question is
Please ask your question.
okay, now I'm encouraged to see some of the private sectors coming up to support the government on the issue of self-regulatory, of regulating the social media or the internet. Now, my question goes to other stakeholders, private sector stakeholders, especially the Facebook. I've heard that they're having some, I think, a forum or something. So, are you going to support the government on that, the self or regulatory, or self-regulatory mechanism, so that the internet can get regulated? Then we have talked of about self-regulation in the internet. What about the women? Because you talk of mama bloggers. I've heard about the mama bloggers. Because most of the mama bloggers on the ground, they don't know more about, because even if we regulate, how are we going to reach out to? Because, for example, maybe the Facebook and the Twitter, they have some the regulation, because some of them, they don't know if you post a hate speech, where do you go and click, maybe a button to report or that. So I don't know the mechanism we are going to use, so that actually even the program there, and they are enlightened on those areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please make your questions short and nice. All right?
Good afternoon. My name is Mildred Church. I am a screenwriter. My question is directed to Dr. Ezekiel Mutua. Two questions, actually. I think right now, and I can be corrected, it's 100 shillings per minute to view a movie so that it can be classified. My question is, could that amount be reduced to at least 50 shillings and maybe even waived for student films? This, I think, will encourage more creation of local content, because by the time a filmmaker has finished making their movie, they've already spent a lot of money. Then they still have to spend additional for it to be classified. It's just a question. And then secondly, I am concerned about this particular genre called the horror genre. And I understand the need for regulation. I am for regulation, but I feel that in specific genres like horror, which many, I think, of the regulators are not quite aware of the complexity of creating a horror film and the particular audiences that expect certain things from a horror film. I feel that it's important that horror movies are not banned, but are classified. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. My name is Nelson Guadin. I work with Web for All Limited. I have two questions, one for Facebook and another one for Fiona. My first question is regarding the initiative that Facebook is having to support infrastructure. because you believe that without infrastructure, your content cannot reach the whole world. It has reached kind of. I'm asking is, the first question is, like, are there, as you're trying to, the premise is that if there is good infrastructure, Facebook is beneficial for you. As you're trying to expand it, there's conflict of interest. You are a company that tries to make profit. So if you're supporting ISPs, will you are there some restrictions or prerequisites for you to work with certain ISP? My question to Fiona is regarding the different business models that telcos can use to generate revenue from OTTs. How much collaboration between content generators and telcos? How much of that collaboration can affect net neutrality? Or is there any stream that we have placed that when someone reaches out and say, hey, this actually violates net neutrality rules? And that will take us to a different discussion, but I would like to hear your opinion on that. Thanks.
Gigi, can I take your question in the next round?
It's actually not my question, it's for Henry.
Okay.
This is from Henry Maina, the Director of Article 19 East Africa, and his question is directed to Mutua. And I think what has informed this, he asked, what are the pitfalls of media policy making in an age of convergence, and which way forward, Ezekiel Mutua? And I think that has been informed by the fact that sometimes we have seen KFCB say this, then CA saying the opposite. So, people are left in between. Sometimes we have staff coming from the office, sometimes it's media council. So which way forward?
I believe you have like 2 questions to answer. Fiona, you have another 2. Ezekiel, you have 2. 3. Okay. So you guys will share the 3.
So there's a question about whether or not Facebook supports self-recognition. This is why I wanted to be very clear what exactly we're talking about. So if we're talking specifically about content, was that what your question is about? And so when it comes to content, there are a couple things. One, there should be existing laws. There are existing laws that are not specific to online content that cover things like defamation, that cover things, like there are existing laws. And so what we would say is that it is still incumbent upon the government to enforce whatever those laws are. Having said that, when there are issues, so I talked earlier about, for example, hate speech. So there may be things that are not criminalized in a particular country, but for Facebook, it's not something that we allow on our platform. So because we don't allow it on our platform, regardless of whether or not it's legal or illegal in a country, that's where it's useful for us to engage very deeply with government, with civil society, so that people are informed about what's allowed and what's not allowed on our platform. Because again, we are not actively policing our platform for that type of content, but we do depend upon the community to report to us. Does that answer your question? If not, you can grab me later. And then the other question was about, are there prerequisites for supporting ISPs? Not at all. And so the other thing I should make clear that the ISP, the partnership ISP is just a piece of it. So we have a Kilo, which is about beaming down internet. This is about beaming down internet entirely. There's our fiber connectivity, where we are investing in fiber companies, where those companies are laying fiber themselves. There are no time prerequisites. So there's no, we don't own any of it. So we are not investing in those companies to own them or to determine what type of content that they produce. And even though, of course, the more connectivity there is, the more possible it is for people to use our platforms. But we think that connectivity in and of itself, even if that person never connects to Facebook, even if that person never ever connects to any of our platforms or properties, we think that connectivity in and of itself is a thing that is social good, that's good for the world. So it's one of those dual things, good for business and also good for the world. But to answer your question, no, there are no timing mechanisms. We partner with anyone and everyone who's interested in partnering with us. There's no requirement that that particular company or ISP carry Facebook, although it's the internet. So Facebook is free. As long as you're on the internet, you have access to any of our platforms.
The first question on access, the price, and display the price is still very high. Unfortunately, that may be what you perceive the price to be, because there are 2 things here. There's been an actual reduction in price by all the ISPs and telcos in terms of internet access, and there is the perceived notion that the price is high. Now, depending at what point in that downward trend of the price going down you came into, you may realize at this point in time, between, say, the last 2-3 years, there's been very little drop in price. But for those who have been in this space longer, the price of internet access over the years has consistently gone down. The more service providers and content management networks have connected to the internet exchange points, the more the ISPs have been able to use that saving to reduce the cost of internet access. And so this is something that we have seen, and I was looking for a report, but I don't have a report with me, but sometime back in 2012, we did check with our members on the difference, the impact of the submarine cables to the cost of internet connectivity, and we noticed that in a span of 3 years there had been a 90% reduction in price. Yet that price has not remained the same. It has kept on going down. So what I would want is for us to begin to look at that discussion now with figures and numbers, because the actual reduction on price is happening, and the more the service providers develop more innovative pricing mechanisms and bundle things in and start giving a lot of additional value adds to the customers, the more there is pressure to reduce that price. So the pressure from the market is there, and the ISPs and the telcos are being forced to respond to it, and they are doing it differently. So if we are to have that discussion moving forward, my recommendation is that we now start looking at actual statistics, actual data, because we are at a point in time where as TESPOC, we can actually, we've been tracking and can actually confidently say that the price in the last 5 years has gone down by about 92%. Based on the statistics of what the price is, then we're also looking at what was the service offering then. Was it internet access only? What else have you added in? What are the other freebies you're giving that you're not billing the customer for? When you work out that and we ask the ISP, so then if you remove all this, what then would otherwise the price of internet alone be? You realize there are quite significant drops in price. When we compare the study done by Analysis Mason on KXP and its impact on the economy and end users, you find that out of sorry, just give me a few minutes. Out of about 12 countries in Africa, Kenya has got the lowest price. If you compare the region with Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, if you broaden that scope to Malawi, South Africa, Zambia, Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, we do have the lowest price for internet connectivity. So I think on behalf of the service providers, we are making a lot of stride and headway in that direction. Now to the second question on the pricing models that would work for the different telcos. One thing that we did, like I mentioned in the study, is that we also talked to consumers and we asked consumers what they wanted. A lot of consumers are comfortable with blended bundles, where they choose for themselves different blends of bundle offerings from the service providers and create their own package that is customized to their desires. But there are those who are interested in bundles that are maybe social media, bundles that put together all the access to social media sites, the Facebooks, the WhatsApps, and the everything else, Instagram, and everything else that is social media related. Then there are those who wanted the zero-rated service, where they want to just pay once, and what they pay, it covers everything and anything that they want to use anyhow. So we did give this feedback to the ISPs with recommendations that they would look into introducing smart plans. They would look into differentiated quality positioning. They would look into launching their own OTT solutions also as an option. They are free to create over-the-top services that compete with those that are already existing. Yes. And then they would also look at zero-rated plans. And from the data we got, that is where the different models would then be framed around. And we're already seeing that, because we did share the report with the members of TESPOT, with the ISPs and the telcos, and they are already working on some of these plans, and we've seen some of them advertising them to the consumers.
Thanks. You know what? I look forward to the day that actually those pipes will be free and the operators will be selling stuff on them. Yeah. Okay, is that good? Quickly, yeah. We are running out.
Okay. Let me say for Faith, thanks a lot for the kind words. I think the issue of internet regulation, and particularly the issues of Facebook, the gurus are here, so I may not touch on that. But we read the newspapers, every time I Google the date nation of November 28th last year, and see the story of the lady who committed suicide because she was duped by some German guy on Facebook, and befriended a guy on Facebook. They ended up meeting in Kenya, in Mombasa. And put a very pretty face on Facebook, and ended up committing suicide. I've had people say that is not true, but when I Google, it is still on the online version of the nation. So I believe it is true. I've quoted it elsewhere, someone told me it's not true, somebody else came and said it was not true. But to the extent that it's still on the record, the nation has not apologized or given another version. So I think the dangers are real, especially for children and minors, and I think regulation should not be targeting what adults do, provided you're not offending my liberties and my freedom. I think regulation should be also be able to embrace other rights, especially with our new constitution, with the Bill of Rights, that recognizes fundamental rights, including freedom of expression, freedom of media, freedom of access to information. I think we are like to these parts, and regulation must precede proper research, stakeholder engagement, and it's also must premise on the dynamics of the evolving issues, emerging issues, locally, regionally, globally. And so from a policy perspective, I think this is what we do. This is a smart government that does research. And that's why when somebody introduced the bill to professionalize ICT operators, even the Minister of ICT said, no, that's not our bill. And I think it's important to recognize that when you have a society that is so robust and where the players are so many, it's like the road. When the road is used by 2 or 3 cars, regulations may not be a big issue. But when there's a huge traffic, you need to manage human relations so that people don't block each other and cause accidents. I think that's a simple thing. And lastly, the analogy that I give about the internet, for parents, you must play your role and tell your children the internet is like the city of Nairobi. You wish there are good places where kids can get what they want, exciting stuff, get knowledge and information, and stuff that they enjoy, but there are also dangerous sites that they don't need to visit. And that cannot be the role of the government alone. Besides regulation, there must be some commitment by all of us to be able to create conversation around these issues. You talked about the cost of examining and classifying media content. And I'll tell you, when I reported to KFCB late last year, that is the first issue that I wanted to deal with. And I went to the CS Treasury to say that this fee does not make sense. I think government should be able to be government and classify content without having to penalize businesses. But I've not received a response, and you can quote me. Because I believe government officials, including the ministers, should be able to account for the tokens that they hold. This fee there's been a complaint for years, but from where I sit as a CEO, I cannot vary a fee that is in the act, the substantive act. I can only appeal to the CS Treasury to give me approval to lower it. I called a special board meeting actually on my arrival to discuss that issue, and they allowed me to waive not just 50%, but to actually say, because there is a contribution by the industry to the Universal Access Fund or Service Fund at CN, we can use that money and create content without having to penalize businesses. These are discussions that are ongoing, but what I've done from where I see it is to initiate policy review of CAP 222 to overhaul it completely, to be in keeping with the dynamics of the industry right now, and to ensure that we can create content, protect our children without having to penalize their adults, without having to undermine freedom of choice, and to interfere with your privacy in terms of what you watch. For the time being, it is still there. So this is what I've done with the small players. I'm sorry for calling them small players. After digital migration, we used to have about 5 major TV stations. Now we have about 50. They're actually 65 or thereabouts. I don't have the statistics, but the active ones, I know there are 45 digital broadcasters who are members of DBA. Now for DBA, we have come up with a model that you don't have to pay. We have computed that into something. So if you're a member of the DBA, we cite an MOU, and you just bring your content to KFCD, we'll examine, and we'll give it back to you, and you can use the rating of KFCD without having to pay. That I have used the powers given to me without having to break the law on the charges. I'm giving the government another benefit, and I've committed the fee into airtime so that you can have public service announcements without having to charge the government as well. And I think that model can work for the time being as we review the law. Now lastly, for every minor, I don't know whether he's here, but Grace, maybe you can take the response on my behalf. I joined KFCB 6-7 months ago. We have taken serious regulatory decisions, because Maina is asking about regulation of the media in the era of convergences, and then the issues of conflicting decisions by government agencies. And what I wanted to say is the decisions that we have taken to restrict or to ban certain adverts or certain media content is strictly based on the law. That's why so far we have banned about 20 adverts and certain programs, taken others out of the watershed. You are aware about the test of the feeding Coca-Cola advert. The initial one is not what you see today, courtesy of KFCD. White oil, Laxo, Durex condoms, and so on, and we do not have a single case in court because we followed the law and we engaged the stakeholders. In fact, what we have done, because I'm a media person, I have been inclined more into creating a conversation instead of banning or even restricting, creating a conversation. Let me just finish with the story, and I wish if you can allow me, you can see the interest in my presentation. I assume you are. You know, 2 days ago, a movie called Mike and Dave named Wedding Dates. I don't know anybody who has seen that. Mike and Dave named Wedding Dates was submitted to KFCB for classification. And the initial decision submitted to me was we have banned that, we should ban that movie. The first panel comprised 5 people, and they went to the Nagman Junction, and they reached that decision. When it was brought to me, I chose to empanel another set of examiners to look at it. And yesterday, they rated that movie 18. So the decision was my discretion. When I say we are moving from banning movies and film content to labeling or rating them adult only, and demand that those who are running them then carry that label, so that adults have a choice. You want to watch pornography in the closest of your room, please do so. It is illegal, but to the extent that you don't make noise or freedoms, you are free to watch that, but it is illegal under the Penal Code 181. You want to have a lesbian party like the one that we banned 2 weeks ago, it is all fine, provided that you don't have to advertise, because Cap 45 of our Constitution says marriage is a union between 2 people of the opposite gender. So when you advertise girls only speed dating, you are giving us the impression there is more to it than meets the eye, and you are inviting government regulation. Please do those things in your closet, in your privacy, will not interfere. But the moment they come to the public space, government will regulate. That's what governments exist to do. Just to ensure that as you enjoy your privacy and your freedom, other people who don't like those things are protected. It's not to say, we hate certain behaviors or we are being homophobic, as it has been said. No, we respect people's choices. But please ensure that as you enjoy your freedom, you do not interfere with other people's freedoms, and your private behavior that may not be in keeping with the law does not come to the public space, because that way we will have to regulate.
That's good. So we were supposed to have like a minute for each panelist. Can we do that? Okay. So what each panelist to just give closing remarks. Just a minute, please.
I think I've said everything.
I think it's just important that we realize that with the OTTs coming into this space, we have to be a bit more accommodative and let the market determine let the shortcomings that the market determines who offers the best services, and let it be a decision of the businesses to then decide how they offer their offering, because I know the companies that will give the best price to the consumer will get the largest consumers, the best package will get the largest number. So yeah, let's open up the market and see how we grow for the next 2 or 3 years.
I want to discriminate on motor. Just pick that one and give us your closing remarks.
If it's not on the internet, it never happened. So, as government and the department where I am, we believe that for something to happen, it has to be seen by everybody. So that's what we are trying to do. We are reforming ourselves so that we are accessible to everybody. We have content also that we sell, but now we are also changing. We are doing exclusive content where you can purchase a particular feature or a clip or a photograph from ourselves without subscribing. So I think we are also trying to make our information accessible.
30 seconds.
As a country, we have done very well in building the physical infrastructure. I think we all know the internet penetration and all those things. The reason why even people, even the UN staff in Kenya is because we are a beautiful country. But there's something I appeal to all of us to do. We must begin to build the ethical infrastructure. Otherwise, people without discipline, without moral ethics, they will not contribute to development and they will destroy the physical infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Matua. I want to thank my panelists for a job, I think a job well done. You guys prepared well and you're ready for this session. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I am a media person. I own a media company. I am a serious user of OTT. And therefore, I think for me, I think we just need to have flexible and adaptive regulation. Something that, it becomes a discussion. Not something that, you decide that you want to ban this, you want to ban that. And with those few remarks, I want to thank you all for staying awake. I was watching you, you stayed awake. So please clap for yourselves, clap for my panelists. Thank you very much.